So good morning, Angelique. I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
So why don't we just get right into it and start with if you can give us just a little background on yourself in terms of how you got into casting and where you are at this point.
Okay, gosh. Well, I mean, I guess I started my career in the film industry in the 90s. I just I went to an open casting call. I wasn't trying to be an actor. It was about like you had to be able to ride a horse and you had to be in your 20s and whatever all the um requirements were, they described me. So I went to it. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like a ranch job or something. And I was in my 20s, so I didn't really question too much why you had to be in your 20s. But
Right.
turns out it was a casting call. So that kind of started my career in the film industry, was just showing up at a casting call and booking a role. And off I went. I started going to auditions because people were like, well, you have this great opportunity, you have to do it. And I was young and I didn't really know yet what I was going to do. So I started going to auditions. That's where I ended up meeting Teresa Neptune, who was working with Joanna Bolden at the time. And they were working on a series in Santa Fe and needed an assistant and asked if I would be interested in a full-time job. And I was like, heck yes, steady work. And I never looked back. I loved it so much. Joanna's been a terrific mentor for many, many years. We've maintained a friendship since the 90s. I've known her longer than I've known my husband, obviously, or my daughter, who's an adult now. I mean, it's just she's been an incredible influence in my life, and I feel like I learned everything I know from her.
And in terms of where you are today, what are, I mean, you're in casting, so you work on things that as they come along, but do you have a preference? Do you like doing small stuff? Do you doing large stuff, film, television?
So gosh, oh, I didn't finish the second half of that.
Oh yeah, no, continue then.
Yeah, I moved to I lived in LA. I ended up in LA, as we all do, and I was there for several years, kind of developing my career. Ended up back in New Mexico in 2005, and shortly thereafter began my own casting director career. Casting started out casting, doing location casting and indigenous casting, which is still what I largely do. But to answer your question, I love working on independent films. Independent filmmakers are just so passionate and they're just all in, and everything they do is a passion project. But this last year I just was the lead casting director on a pilot, and I don't know if I can say yet, but a network pilot.
Great.
And man, those showrunners also creative and passionate as can be, even though one of them already has a show on that network. Still just people that are loving what they do every day. So that was really exciting to get to cast those bigger roles, series regulars, and it was just really rewarding. And I cast a series up in Canada where I was indigenous casting and consulting,
Mhm.
again, for the larger roles, series regulars, guest stars, recurring. So that was really rewarding as well. And my husband's Native American, so I've been like immersed in the indigenous world for nearly 25 years. So
Great.
it's just always rewarding when all of like my knowledge and life experience, gets to come to fruition and be
Absolutely.
beneficial in a creative sense.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to combine your personal life and your business life, and make them kind of one giant passion.
Yeah.
So in terms of getting your jobs, because it sounds like not only are you doing stuff, I'm assuming the things they did in Canada they they had you casting here, or did you go to Canada to help them there?
I cast remotely. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the talent pool came out of Canada,
Okay,
as well as LA, New York, and it's a little different with Indigenous actors. It's I think it's becoming more acceptable for actors to live wherever they want to live and
absolutely.
cast remotely. I do feel like that really started early on with the Indigenous film community because um, everyone is so spread out and everyone's just not willing to relocate and
Right,
uproot their lives.
right. So in terms of getting jobs, what is the process? Do you reach out to for projects you hear are coming to town? Do you network? Do people come to you? How does that work?
Usually it's just I get a phone call. Are you available? We have this project coming to town. A lot of it is word of mouth. Casting directors, producers, directors that I've worked with before.
Right.
Um, yeah, so it's usually it usually comes to me.
Great. How do you decide what actors to bring in and see out of the pool we have here?
We get the script, and
So that's all you get.
most of the time we get the script. If we're lucky, they may have a day out of days already, which breaks out
Okay.
the roles. Sometimes they don't. Every project's different. But yeah, we get the script, we break out the characters, we talk with, if I'm doing location casting, then I'll talk with LA casting, I'll talk with producers, and we'll kind
Right.
of decide, we'll break out all the characters and we'll decide which characters are coming from LA or New York, which characters are being cast locally, and we'll do our own character breakdowns. Sometimes LA or New York casting will already have a breakdown for their leads, and if there are roles that characters that we look at and we go, I know you guys are looking at casting this out of LA, but we have some people I'd really like to show you for these roles. I hope you'll consider they're really strong actors. They're local hires, but they're really strong actors. So sometimes there will be a little overlap.
Mhm.
Um, and then for the most part, we kind of have our marching orders at that point. Um, yeah, and I feel like if the I always say, like, the larger the project, the smaller the roles. So the larger the project is, they'll bring almost everybody. Sometimes they'll bring a lot of, I mean, you see like name actors playing very small roles in
Right.
very big movies sometimes. On you know, but I mean, I know that Joe Edna's had some really wonderful opportunities to cast our local actors in some bigger movies too, because she's built a reputation and she's trusted and she really
Right.
fights for our local actors. So that's a really wonderful thing that happens in our community as well. And when you're working on kind of smaller budgets, if they're independent films, if they're cable movies, movies that are going for distribution directly to the streaming platforms, sometimes we have greater opportunities. Movies, and I should say series as well,
Right.
that we oftentimes have greater opportunities to cast larger roles. I do all of the Lifetime movies that film here, and they do several a year, and I do often principal. I do all of the casting on that. So I'll bring one or two name actors from LA or New York, and I'll cast everyone else locally. Really big roles. A lot of times, the antagonist, the love interest. I mean, really great roles.
Right. And feeding off of what you were talking about in terms of bigger projects, bringing more people in from LA or New York, and smaller projects, how how is the decision made as to whether to cast a role locally versus bringing somebody in?
Usually, it's two factors. It's the budget. If sometimes on the smaller projects, they simply don't have the budget to bring in actors from LA, which is a win for our community. Or it's just the talent, you know. Like I said, I'll talk to the director or, you know, the lead casting director and say, look, I really want to show you some people. I think you'll be really happy with them. I know they can do it. I've been following this guy's career for 8 years. Or, you know, I just cast him or something, or just saw him in something where he just killed it and he's just right for this. And it's really, it's a conversation that we have internally in our department.
And do you find that the industry is more receptive to it?
Absolutely. Especially I've seen a big change over the past several years. I would say really over the past maybe 5 years that I've really seen it turn around, and really fairly quickly, where you know, it used to be, I would say almost, I hate to say it like this, but I almost felt like they didn't trust us, not necessarily us, the casting directors, but just that they didn't trust that the talent pools were strong enough in regional markets.
Right.
However, I mean, I want to say 10 years ago, maybe it was, that New Mexico became, maybe it was a little more than 10 years ago, that New Mexico became the #1 market outside of LA and New York.
Right.
It was LA, New York, New Mexico. And our market grew, and our actors took it seriously, and really started training, and really a strong talent pool. Of course, we had people who relocated to New Mexico, who had greater experience. So it was just a combination of things that really suddenly strengthened our talent pool. And, you know, since then, there have been some shifts in the dynamic. Now there's Atlanta, Louisiana, now all, you know, a lot of states are developing incentives and developing film programs, but we've been in it for a long time. I mean, like I said, I got my start in the 90s in Mexico. So it's like we've been here for a long time. We've been established, we have infrastructure, and we have actors who have been around that long, and we have young actors who have grown up knowing that they wanted to work in the industry because it's here. So so I think because of all of these things, the producers and directors who are bringing their films here are really starting to really trust, like I said, over the past several, almost 5 years, and especially since self-taping has developed, that that they are trusting that we do have the talent. And especially when we see actors who have been working, have had so many opportunities, and have worked so much. We have actors in New Mexico that have way heftier resumes than LA and New York, because the opportunities are greater. I mean, you know how it is. It's like, man, to get an audition for a woman #2 in a Tom Hanks movie in LA, you're going against 200 people just for a day player, a no-name day player role in LA. But as soon as they bring that movie here, they you know, we get to cast that locally, and then the opportunities expand from there. You know, the series, you get cast as a co-star, well, they want to bring you back, they want to bring you back again, and you know, you get, next thing you know, you get cast as a guest star, and now that character comes back. It's really been astounding what we've seen over the past several years.
Absolutely. And you know, there's the old joke of it took 10 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's kind of what's happening in terms of local markets is, you know, if you're shooting $100 million film, you want to have confidence that everybody you're hiring is going to make it what you want it to be. And the more they come here and the more they see us, the relationship builds, the trust builds, and so the roles expand, and you know, everything you just said, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So you were saying, you know, in LA for a small Tom Hanks part, they'll bring in 200 people. I know it varies, but range wise, when you cast a project, what's the range of people you will bring in for any particular role?
Here locally?
Yes.
Um, yeah, it does depend on the project. It also depends on the role.
Right.
Um, if it's one of my lifetime movies and it's for, I mean, we've even cast the leads locally, and it's for a lead, a love interest, a bad guy, the actual female lead. Um, there aren't as many people who are there yet,
Right.
as opposed to if it's a smaller role. We have quite a few people who are practiced, who can handle the smaller roles, or who are up and coming, who you want to offer them those opportunities. So I would say it's kind of like a pyramid, depending on the size of the role. But really, I'm not going to say there's not really numbers necessarily. It's more of like how many, when I look at the talent pool and I look at the character breakdown, I kind of do a breakdown and I brainstorm who would be good for
Right.
this. And sometimes it depends. The character has like, oh man, it's a category where we have a lot of people who've been around and who are doing, oh man, this guy would be good, this guy would be good. And it'll end up being, bringing 18 people for that role, even though it's a big role.
Right.
Or sometimes uh, it's a role where, maybe a lot of the Lifetime movies have younger casts. We've done several high school projects, where the leads are 16. Well, we don't have as many 16-year-olds, so maybe we only get 4 or 6 people for that
Hmm.
big hefty role. So I would say it just varies like that.
Right. And in terms of characters, say, you know, um, 20 something blonde college students,
Mhm.
how much, how much input do you have in trying to stretch that, in terms of bringing in different genders, obviously if they want a woman, they want a woman, but in terms of changing a role in terms of gender or ethnicity, how much flexibility and input do you get?
That really is up to the casting director and the director, and the producers to get, again, just to, every person is different, every project is different, but every relationship is different. Some people are more approachable than others, some people are more open to thinking outside the box. I mean, I would say that the main thing that determines how much flexibility you have is how much their character description is part of the storyline.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's got to do, if it's a race issue, then the character has to be a certain race. You
Right.
know what I mean? If it's like you said, for example, a college movie, then it's got to be college age. But when you're talking about something that's and it can be a larger role, but say it's maybe a more, I don't want to say nondescript, but a character that can have, you can have more flexibility with a school
Right.
teacher, and maybe the school teacher is just scripted a certain way because the writer wrote, oh, 45-year-old Caucasian school teacher, because that's what he thought of. That's what his second grade teacher was. But, I mean, certainly nowadays it's like you will see an African American man as a school teacher, or you will see a Hispanic woman as a police officer,
Right.
even if it's scripted a certain way. So, I mean, again, it just depends how willing people are to think outside of the box and how much the scripted description plays into the storyline if it's a plot point. But otherwise, we are, we have free reign to have these discussions with the creatives and see how much they agree with us. We also, remember every single cast is a collaboration. So,
Right.
we also have to keep in mind who did they cast in LA for this leading role or that leading
Right.
role. If these people are in a lot of scenes together, then we want to cast somebody that doesn't look too much like them, in a
Right.
particular way or whatever. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration, and always my personal number one consideration is I'm always thinking of the best actors, the most talented, strongest actors for each particular role. And then we discuss, I have this really great actor who would be really good in this. He isn't the way you scripted it, but I'd love for you to see him.
That's great. It's great. And at the end of the day, it's a recipe, and you have to have all the right ingredients. How do you feel about actors holding their sides during their auditions?
Oh, it doesn't bother me. I know everyone's different. It doesn't bother me. I think, I would honestly rather have you have your sides. If you need to refer to them, I would hope that you will have developed your character and contemplated your performance, things like that. But if it's just about like having the words in front of you or whatever, I mean, it's a non-issue for me. I do think I would advise actors for callbacks though to not have their sides and to have their character and their scene fully developed by callbacks. I think
Right.
um, producers and directors at callbacks, by callbacks, what they're hoping to see is really how you're going to perform on the day. That's
Right.
what they're wanting to see at callbacks. So it just behooves the actor at that point to not have to hold their sides and to have the not necessarily to have the dialogue dialed in, but to have the meat and potatoes of the scene and the character and the tone and the pacing and everything
Right.
dialed in by callbacks. That said, of course, at callbacks, they're anticipating, or when they watch your audition, they are also anticipating seeing what you're going to do if they cast you. So it does also behoove you not to hold your sides in an audition if you don't have to. But
Right.
if you feel like you need to or you want to, me personally, doesn't bother me.
Great. Um, as actors, when we come in for an audition, we obviously want to do everything you just said. We want to develop the character. We want to do the research. We want to flush out the tone of the project. Yet it seems like it's more and more difficult for us to get our hands on a full script so we can read the story in its entirety. I'm curious if you have a perspective as why that seems to be getting more and more difficult.
Well, I think I've really seen it. I mean, I feel like I'm totally dating myself, but whatever. But I've seen it with the development of the internet and social
I'm
media.
right there with you, by the way.
It's social media in particular. When social media became a huge thing,
Right,
and say people use it to like brag about being a part of a project, even if it was just getting an audition.
right,
And they want to be the one to like maybe, I mean, people are leaking information. And I don't know what the motivation behind that is, but information is getting leaked via
right,
the internet, via social media. It's kind of great that there are fans that care that much about what's going to happen in any particular show, but
right.
the studio doesn't want it. So that's why.
It makes sense, and I've never quite understood of as somebody who watches something, I want to discover it in the moment as opposed to hear about it the week before the episode airs.
Yeah, or before they even film it. Like, why do
Right,
you want this? Why do you want the spoilers?
right.
That's the thing.
So in terms of being in the room, do you find that there's common mistakes actors make that people should be aware of?
Oh yeah. Um, I,
Should I get another cup of coffee?
Go ahead. I'll wait. No, just basically, look, I think people know that they have a finite amount of time that they're in the room with you,
Right,
and that's because we're on a schedule. So, say we're on a tight schedule and we have 7 minutes for you, often we'll, depending on the size of the role, if it's a medium role page or so, maybe we'll schedule 2 actors every 15 minutes or 1 actor every 7 minutes is how we flesh it out. Um, so if you have 7 minutes in the room, already that sounds like not much time, right? 7 minutes. And so if you, I would just say maximize your time in the room. Don't come in and then decide to pull out your sides and look at them, then decide to take your coat off, then decide to shut your phone off, or worse, not. Don't use that time to make excuses about why you were late. Already, I just called you in the room 18 minutes late. I don't care that you know what I mean?
Right.
You shouldn't be late. But what I'm saying is, like, you know, just don't waste any time in the room,
Right.
is what I would say. Your time in the room, what I want to use it for is to, do you have questions about the character? Let's talk about that. Do you have questions about the tone of the show? Let's talk about that. If you don't have questions, let's get into it. That way, if you want to do 2, 3 takes, let's use our time to kind of, oh yeah, that was good. You know, we could do a little bit better, or let's try it this way, or this was kind of funny. Let's enhance that. No, that didn't work. Let's do something. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I want to work on performance with you. I don't want to just wait for you to take off your coat, turn off your phone, pull out your headshot, tell me why you were stuck in traffic and you couldn't pick your kid up from school and the babysitter was late and now we only have time to do 1 take and you messed up your line.
Right.
That's, I would say, like, that's kind of a typical, like, you know, please don't do that.
Well, using a sports analogy, it's like you step in the batter's box and be ready to hit the ball. Don't start fixing your cleats and tying your shoes and all of that stuff.
Exactly. And I also tell actors that, like, look, this isn't where you practice either. You know, you should be, obviously, but you'd be surprised. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, you should be on point by the time you get in the room. Because a
Right.
lot of things too these days, even if you're coming into the office, being cast off tape. So your initial audition is often your callback. You
Right.
come into the casting director's office once and then you get a phone call you got the part sometimes, you know.
Right.
Um,
It seems like that's happening more and more.
Absolutely, it's happening more and more.
So on the flip side of things, mistakes actors make, I'm going to throw you a curveball, sticking with my baseball analogy. Is there anything that you would like to encourage actors to do more of, that maybe you see hesitancy in the room and you wish more actors would do?
Yes, well, okay, so this isn't in the room, but I would encourage, but I will get to that too. But I
Okay.
would encourage actors to research more. They need to know who they're auditioning for, what the tone of their projects are, what type of projects they're, and I don't mean like what casting director you're auditioning for, but the directors, the networks,
The writers, yeah.
right? Yeah, that will inform you so much on your performance. And it's just, I mean, gosh, nowadays with IMDb and YouTube, you
Right.
can sit down and research for 10, 15 minutes and have a really solid idea of what you're trying to do.
I'm
And
so glad you said that.
oh my God, I mean, sometimes people just do a generic performance no matter what the material. They look at the material and they develop a character and they do the without looking to see who it is they're going in for, because, you know, I mean, it's just, you know, James Mangold has a different style than Steven Soderbergh or
Right.
McGee. I mean, any of one of those people could be directing a movie for a certain studio, but you want to know their style, you want to know what they're going to respond to. So there's that. And then did you say what I would like to see people doing in the room? Is that what you said? What was
Yeah.
the question?
To like I know some casting directors I've spoken to, they're like, they wish actors would take the personality that they have outside the room and bring it into that somehow they leave that out sometimes.
And then they start just acting like a character.
Right.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, definitely, like I said when I said earlier on, like I kind of look at a script, create a breakdown, and brainstorm who would be good for it. I'm thinking of you, Bob Jesser, because of what I know of you, what I've experienced of you, your own personality. Of course, we want you to bring that. Um, so obviously, if you're playing like a serial killer, well, there's not going to be a lot of Bob Jesser in there.
let's hope not.
Unless he's like totally, a sociopath. Um, but not that you're a sociopath, but that a sociopath might act more normal, such as you.
Yes,
Um,
I'm
but
not offended.
no, okay, good. Another thing is I would like to see actors take more risks, um, ask more questions. Hey, I was thinking of doing this. What do you think? Yeah, let's go for it. Let's try it. I mean, just like not holding back, not being inhibited, just bringing, just not being scared to go for it, or to be vulnerable, or to be really get angry, or really be upset, or whatever the scene calls for. I would like to see actors really just trusting us as casting directors. And I feel like it's a luxury that we have in this community, that we know each other, and that we see each other. I don't know how many times I've seen you, but it's been a lot, so it's like, we have those opportunities where I would hope that you, for example, would trust me coming into my office and being completely vulnerable, or feeling, if you felt concerned or insecure about doing a certain thing, asking me, I was thinking of doing this,
Right.
and trusting um, my instincts, but also my knowledge and my experience. And I have had these conversations with the director and the producers, and I do know what they're looking for, and just trusting that together we can work on a performance that is gonna get you the role. Because what I want at the end of the day is every actor to come in and kill it. So the director looks at my tapes and is like, oh my gosh, Angelique, you're so amazing. Like, your actors killed it. Like, you really know these people, you really know their capabilities. They clearly trust you. And, we're
Right.
casting direct actors, and for them to see that we directed you into a certain performance or whatever. So
Right.
it's, good for the goose is good for the gander.
Right.
I say that all the time,
What is it? The old Vidal Sassoon commercial? We don't look good unless you look good.
Let me say that. I feel like I've never said that goose gander thing, but what?
Yeah. No, I like that. Um, so once you bring people into the room and you say, okay, Jimmy's great for this and Judy's great for this. Uh, what is the process for making the final decision in terms of who decides who books the roles? Is that solo your decision? Is it in terms of local people? Do you consult? I'm assuming you consult with everybody.
That is always solo my decision. Just
Oh,
kidding.
cool.
No, just kidding.
So what's the address I send my gifts to?
It would be P.O. Box. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's we do we'll weed out, if some people, we hope every single person comes into the room and just brings a performance that we love and get to share. That doesn't always happen, so sometimes we have to weed out a few. It's, again, every production is different, every producer director is different. Some directors say, show me everyone, I want to see everyone. And if it's an independent film, a lot of times it'll be the director making the decision, or even a larger film. Films, more often directors. Television, more often collaborative with the producers, showrunners, writers, even sometimes one person, or that's a room full of people. But television is kind of more collaborative in that sense, and film a lot. They hire a director because they want that director's vision. So a lot of times in film, it'll be the director. But and then every director is different. Some directors want to see everybody. Don't weed anyone out. We want to see everyone, even the people who, just didn't get it. Maybe they want something that we don't know about, or they're open to anything.
Right.
Or sometimes some directors have said, just show me your top 2 or 3 people. Just show me your favorites.
Right.
So, again, it's every show is different, but it's usually director producers who make those final decisions. But I have had films where they've said, Angelique, who do you like? Who do you want?
Right.
We trust you. And,
Right.
so sometimes I get more, but usually it's not.
Yeah, no, and it's fun, I think it's human instinct that we like our freedom, and so it's very reassuring when somebody says, "Hey, I got this role, I trust you, send me your best guy or your best woman."
Yeah. Yeah. And I've even had stuff where they've just written stuff into the script. Hey, we need a cab driver for next week. Just cast us somebody.
Right.
And you never know. That's not like when you come into the room, I'm going to tell you, I'm casting this, so you better be good or whatever. You just never know. And it's always different. Every day is different, which is one of the things I love about my job.
Right. And one of the things I was thinking of that I want to actually say, you were talking about the trust factor for when actors come in the room. I think and let me know if I'm off base here, but I think it's important for actors to know that sometimes you'll get last minute information that they don't know about, or that you'll send out sides that are old sides, but the information has changed in the meantime. And so that as an actor, you shouldn't judge, like I've gone out for roles where it'll say, office manager, 70-year-old woman. I'm like, well, I'm not a 70-year-old woman. And to just trust that it wasn't a mistake that the casting director called you in.
Oh my gosh, yes, that is one of my peeves, because I'll say, you're not a 70-year-old woman, but I asked for you because I thought you were the best actor for the role. And in fact, I told the director, I'm going to bring in a couple people who aren't 70-year-old women because they would be interesting in this role for whatever reason. So it's like you're talking back to me like a child talking back to their parent, you know what I mean? Well, why do I have to do that? Or that's not what the teacher said, or whatever. And it's like, I'm on your side.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And or like you said, that sometimes we have last minute information, not like that, but like, for example, we'll get a new draft of the script. We'll schedule it. It's kind of like, oh, I'm so glad I'm getting to vent about this. It's like we always try to do the best thing for the actor. In my office, I come from a family of actors. My husband's an actor, my daughter's an actor, and my husband was an actor when I met him 25 years ago, and my daughter's been an actress for a while. And so I'm always coming from an actor's perspective. And I also have done some acting in my very long time ago. But
Right.
but I know what it's like to get your sides, to have to develop a character, to research, to learn it by tomorrow or whatever. So I always try to give you as much time as you can,
Right.
as much time, as much information as I'm allowed to. And then sometimes that backfires because, if I find out we have to have auditions for whatever reason tomorrow, then I'm going to rush to get you the sides and the breakdown and whatever. And then sometimes they'll change them. There will be a new script at 8:30 that night. And then, but don't come in. I just got new sides at 9:00 last night. I don't know why
You're like,
did
I
you?
know, I sent that to you.
I got a new script and I had to make new sides
Right.
at 9:15 last night for your audition today. I was up rescheduling. I was up making the sides. Like, don't get Yeah. So anyway, that is definitely a peeve, and people should just be understanding that everybody's doing their best,
Right.
and I am always going to do what's in the actor's best interest to the best of my ability, because we don't look good unless you look
That's
good.
right. And at the end of the day, you're our advocate, not our obstacle.
Absolutely.
You know. Um,
Absolutely.
so the talent pool in New Mexico, obviously, it's constantly fluid, and people are coming in. And how do actors that you don't know or haven't met yet, how do they get on your radar?
Um, well, there's a few ways. I mean, obviously, if they have an agent,
In a good
um,
way, by the way.
yeah. Oh, there's that. I'm sassy today. I'm sassy. Um, well, I mean, so obviously, if they have an agent, their agent will submit them if they fit a role, and usually, I mean, there's not a whole lot of agents here, and we all know each other intimately.
Right.
We know each other very well. So the agents will call us up or shoot us an email or a text and say, "Hey, I submitted such and such for this project, and they're new in town, or I just signed them and I'd love you to see them." Or even if there's not a role for them, they agents know me, and they'll say, "Look, I know you're casting this whatever movie, and I have this new actor I really want you to see. Doesn't really fit in any of the roles, but is there any place that you think that you might be able to squeeze them in and puzzle them in and see if they'll fit, even if they're outside the box? He's a really good actor. I'd
Mhm.
really like you to see him. He just turned 18, so he's new to the scene, but he's been doing high school plays for 4 years, whatever it is.
Right.
They'll pitch us. And if you don't have an agent, if you go to my Midthunder casting Facebook page and scroll down, obviously until this isolation started, I think you'll be surprised to see how many casting calls I've posted on there.
Hmm.
Tons, tons. Even I was casting a series regular roles for a pilot last year, and I was even putting those on there. I mean, I put some really great opportunities out there, some really great opportunities. I was casting a movie for an Oscar-winning director last year, and I put it on my Facebook. I don't say who it is, I don't say what the project is. At SAG project, this is the role. If you fit it, email me, because I want to give everybody that is qualified the opportunity. I don't want to miss anyone. Directors
Sure.
and producers, when they talk to me, they're like, they know I leave no stone unturned. So I guess I guess you could, that's like good and bad for the actors that read for me, because sometimes I'll see a lot of actors for certain roles, which
Mhm.
maybe makes the odds of booking the role for each individual actor a little bit less, but that also opens the door for actors who may otherwise not have been seen. Um, so I want to give the opportunity to everybody.
That's great. That's great. Um, so I've run across this a few times over the years, and I'm curious your perspective. If an actor wants to pass on an audition for, say, my sister's getting married, and I want to go, I'm going to the wedding, or this is against my religious beliefs, or it's a sexual situation I'm not comfortable with. If an actor passes on an audition like that, is that something that you would hold against them?
No, I'm not going to hold anything against anybody, especially, well, okay, it depends on the circumstance. The
Right.
reasons that you gave are good reasons. But look, I've gotten a lot of excuses.
Right.
Um, I'm traveling. Uh, okay, you know, you have an iPhone. I mean,
Right.
again, I know I am a little bit like, I have very high standards. I'm gonna just say that
Sure.
I expect a lot from
Absolutely.
myself, and therefore I expect a lot from other people. I see how hard, the actors in my family work
Hmm.
really hard. Never, not never, but rarely ever miss an audition. I mean, I've been out to dinner with my husband where he'll get a text, "You have an audition," and we have to like, okay, pack it up. We're taking it to go. I got to start working on this, and that's the life of an actor. I mean, literally, I was at dinner with my daughter during pilot season in LA. 11 o'clock at night, we're out with friends doing sushi in Hollywood, and she has an 7-page audition for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Putting money on the table. Sorry, got to cut out. I mean, it's like, and we've been on the road where we've been on the road where we've been doing road trips. It's like, okay, well, we'll figure it out later. Let's just stop, get a hotel, do the audition, and now we're a day behind on our road trip. We'll
Right.
we'll make so it's like, so I expect a lot from other people, especially if they want to do well.
Sure.
Um, Look, if it's a good reason, like you said, it's the day of your sister's wedding and only that day, religious reasons, ethical reasons, moral reasons. Course, of course, I understand that. But
Hmm.
if it's because, I'm on a road trip or I have a dentist appointment, and if it's time after
Right.
time, then I'm just gonna not have the respect for you as an
Right.
actor, as if I know, like, man, such and such never misses an audition, and I mean, I mean, I've seen you would be flabbergasted at some of the tapes that I've seen,
Right.
but I have seen pull out all the stops. I got one tape from a guy who was on a road trip who just pulled over and set up his camera in the dashboard and did his audition in his car driver's seat at a rest area, but gave
Hmm.
a phenomenal performance.
Right.
You know what I've gotten tapes from airports, hotels, you know, all over the world. Last show I had, a girl was in just landed in Thailand, totally jet lagged, and was like, "Oh my gosh!" And just
Right.
I mean, but I had the tape. I got her tape within 24 hours. So
Right.
it depends on your reason and your
Sure.
pattern.
And 99% of us have a camera in our pocket at all times. So,
Yeah.
uh, well, so to wrap it up, I'm going to put it into your hands. Is there anything that you would like to share with people in terms of what what you would like people to understand about what you do and your place in this? Um, and before you answer, I do want to say, going back to what you were talking about having high demands, you know, because it's artistic and creative and emotional. I think sometimes what we can get lost in is that it's a business and it's a career and it's a profession, and should be respected no different than if you were a doctor or a lawyer, a
Right.
construction worker. You get up, you get ready for work, and you go.
Exactly. Yeah, and you wouldn't expect less of your doctor. You wouldn't accept
Right.
less of your doctor or the person who's building your house or whatever. You would hope for, and you would expect the best quality possible, and that's kind of what I expect from the actors too. What was your question?
Absolutely.
What was the question?
So I was going to say, so going back to the final question, is there anything you'd like to let us, for us to understand about what you do and your place in this amazing process?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing I would like for you to understand about what I do is just to know that I am, like you said, I'm the actor's advocate. I am on your side. I'm pitching you to the director. I'm pitching you to the producer. You don't even know you've come in the room. I've already told the director and producer about you, about your talents. So please, um, don't let me down, you know,
Right.
come in prepared, come in having done your research, having developed your character, being true to the role, you know, giving your all emotionally, and just, you know, help me help you.
Oh, now you're quoting movies.
I could be here all day.
uh, Great, great. That was painless.
Oh yeah.
Um, well, I will wrap this up by saying I really appreciate you doing this for me, for us, and to stay safe, stay well, and look forward when we can all start getting together and playing again.
That will be nice. Thank you,
Yeah.
Bob.
You have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.